The restaurant glittered that evening with golden chandeliers and polished marble floors. It was one of those places where every chair was reserved weeks in advance, where each dish cost more than most people's monthly salary. Waiters and waitresses moved gracefully between the tables, their uniforms crisp, their hands steady, balancing trays filled with delicacies. At the center of it all sat Richard Sterling, a billionaire CEO whose name carried power in boardrooms across the globe. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and wore a suit tailored to perfection. But beneath the surface of wealth and authority, Richard had a darker reputation. He was arrogant, dismissive, and often cruel to those he considered beneath him. When the waitress, Amara, approached his table, she greeted the group with a polite smile. She had been working at the restaurant for months and was known for her professionalism. But Richard, instead of acknowledging her with the courtesy she deserved, saw an opportunity to entertain his business associates. As Amara took their orders, Richard leaned slightly toward his colleagues and, in Arabic, whispered a mocking comment about her appearance and intelligence. He thought he was clever, assuming she couldn't understand. His words carried arrogance, describing her as just a servant who would never rise above her station. His companions burst into laughter, their voices low but cruel, feeding Richard's ego. But what Richard didn't know was that Amara's life story stretched far beyond this restaurant. Born to hard-working parents, she had earned scholarships, studied languages, and spent time abroad. She was fluent in 3 languages, including Arabic, which she had mastered during her studies. So instead of pretending she hadn't understood, Amara turned to Richard with steady eyes. She placed the last glass of water on the table, then leaned in slightly and replied to him, in perfect, fluent Arabic. Her words were calm yet sharp, addressing his insult directly. She reminded him that dignity and respect cost nothing, and that mocking others only revealed weakness, not strength. The laughter around the table froze. Richard's smug expression collapsed as his face turned pale. His business partners looked at him in disbelief. Some exchanged awkward glances, others couldn't help but smirk, impressed by the young woman's courage. The entire atmosphere shifted in seconds. Richard tried to laugh it off, stammering something in broken Arabic, but the damage was done. The power he once held at the table had slipped through his fingers. He wasn't the dominant figure anymore, he was the man who got humbled by the waitress he thought he could belittle. The restaurant grew quieter. Diners at nearby tables had noticed the exchange, whispering among themselves. The manager, who had overheard enough, approached discreetly. He reassured Amara with a nod of respect, signaling that she had done nothing wrong. In fact, her professionalism and confidence had just elevated the restaurant's reputation in the eyes of many. As Amara walked away, Richard sat in silence. His expensive suit, his wealth, his title, none of it could shield him from the truth that intelligence and self-respect command more power than money ever could. That night, Richard's associates saw him differently. Some were embarrassed to be seated at his table, while others admired Amara's brilliance more than anything Richard had said during the evening. Amara, on the other hand, carried herself with quiet pride. She had no intention of humiliating him, her response was not loud or dramatic. It was calm, precise, and impossible to ignore. She had simply reminded everyone in that glittering room that respect is not a luxury for the rich, it is a right owed to every human being. And as she continued her shift, serving with the same grace and professionalism as before, she left behind a lasting memory. That night wasn't about Richard's money, power, or arrogance. It was about a young woman who stood tall with nothing but her knowledge and dignity, proving to everyone that true strength comes from character, and that underestimating someone because of their appearance is the biggest mistake of all.